Subarchon Kelia tasted it immediately. The metallic, stale taste of recycled oxygen masking the heavy smell of her own silver blood. She lay pinned beneath a collapsed bulkhead, the skin of her shoulder still raw where High Autocrat Vane had personally burned away her royal crest. Her crime was a genetic anomaly that the Cillian hegemony classified as a terminal contagion. A heartbeat that mirrored the pain of others. Empathy. Footsteps crunched heavily against the lunar ash. Terrans. Kelia tracked their approach through half-lidded eyes, recognizing the bulky, outdated environmental suits of the local mining colonists. Overseer Garrick and Field Surgeon Alara dragged her from the smoldering debris. Kelia forced her spine rigid, bracing for the customary plasma round to the temple. She expected an execution, or at least a brutal interrogation, but instead, Alara clamped a pressure seal over her ruptured side and ordered an immediate medevac. You ever wonder what happens when you treat a discarded weapon like a person? The hegemony is about to find out. Kelia did not display outward shock. She simply lay on the sterilized cot in their subterranean medical bay, calculating the sheer caloric and resource waste of their actions. Using medical synthesizers on an exiled enemy defied every tactical doctrine drilled into her from birth. Yet, the Terrans did not stop at saving her life. They put her to work. Chief Mechanic Roken shoved a hydrospanner into her hands rather than a shackle. She spent her days rebuilding failing atmospheric scrubbers, learning the strange, inefficient rhythms of their outpost. The colonists didn't march. They wandered. They didn't process rations. They shared meals. Then came the piece of scrap paper. A small colonist named Mila pressed it against Kelia's thigh during a shift change. It was a crude drawing rendered in carbon dust. A tall silver figure holding hands with a small Terran. Kelia stared at the smudge of carbon. Her pulse adopted a strange, arrhythmic stutter that she had absolutely no military training to suppress. Then, the sky began to scream. Proximity sirens bathed the outpost in harsh amber light. Kelia recognized the harmonic frequency of the descending engines before the outpost's primitive sensors even painted the targets. 30 Cillian hegemony cruisers, dropping out of orbit in perfect, overlapping extermination formations. Fleet Marshal Kale had arrived. Inside the primary command bunker, the air grew thick with panic, but not a single colonist bolted for the launch bays. The Rust Cutter, their only viable transport ship, sat perfectly idle on the pad. "They want us to run," Garrick told the assembled miners. His voice a steady, grounding rumble over the shrieking klaxons. "I'm tired of running." One by one, the mechanics, the medics, and the deep-vein drillers raised their fists in the dim light. It was a synchronized defiance that completely ignored the mathematical impossibility of their survival. 30 warships against 800 stubborn miners. We'll be right here to show you exactly how that math breaks down. Kelia looked at the folded scrap of paper tucked securely into her utility belt. She stepped out of the shadows, raised her silver fist, and joined the condemned. The outpost did not have a military. It had rock crackers. Kelia stood at the primary tactical console, her silver fingers flying across the crude Terran interfaces. 30 cruisers against repurposed mining lasers meant total annihilation, unless she isolated the hegemony's shield rotation algorithms and fed them directly into Oricon 9's automated mining drones. The sky ignited. High-yield excavation charges bypassed the Cillian kinetic barriers perfectly, gutting 3 cruisers in the opening volley. Down in the bunker, the colonists cheered. But the hegemony did not retreat. They adapted. Ground forces breached the perimeter, pushing deep into the subterranean tunnels. An incoming transmission forcibly overrode the command center screens. Fleet Marshal Kale stood amidst the shattered ruins of the outpost's clinic. The rhythmic, failing hum of the medical bay's auxiliary generator bled through the audio feed. Kale held a plasma blade to Field Surgeon Alara's throat, demanding absolute surrender. Garrick did not hesitate. He grabbed his heavy ion rifle. Kelia took a confiscated Cillian pulse pistol. Together, they boarded the Rust Cutter and slammed it directly into the hegemony flagship's lower docking bay. The flagship burned. She moved through the pristine, obsidian glass corridors of her former flagship not with the calculated, bloodless precision of a Cillian subarchon, but with the frantic, messy, and entirely unyielding desperation of a Terran miner defending the only family she had ever known. They tore through the containment block, Garrick absorbing a grazing plasma burn to the shoulder, just to give Keelia the angle to drop Kale's personal guard. They pulled Alara from the holding cell. As they sprinted back to their breached transport, Keelia wired the flagship's atmospheric regulators to overload. The resulting cascade explosion shattered the command vessel's spine, throwing the entire armada into absolute disarray. The hegemony retreated, leaving the sky open for dozens of independent refugee ships arriving to answer the outpost's distress call. Keelia stood inside the engineering bunker, staring at the newly printed death mark her father had just broadcast across the sector. Slowly, she pulled the carbon smudge drawing from her belt and pinned it directly over the autocrat's seal.